Donald Hand has to come back to Boston College if the Eagles want to have any chance next season.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. This is Locked On Boston College, your team every day. I'm your host, AJ Black of Eagle Insider. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. On today's show, we're going to go heavy on the basketball. What does basketball have for next year? What needs do they have? How will this transfer portal look for BC? Let's kick that off with the biggest question, Donald Hand. So, March 24th, circle that date. That is the date that the transfer portal officially opens. Now, you're already seeing names. If you follow me along on 247, a lot of the 247 accounts are already talking about players entering the transfer portal. For Boston College, at the time of this recording, it's a grand total of 0 players in the portal. But things could change. Now, going into this offseason, obviously the big news was the return of Earl Grant, that BC is going to retain him for the 2025 season. Now, we have to move past that. I'm not going to be here to beat a dead horse. You want to hear my thoughts on that, you can go back to earlier episodes. But BC needs to put themselves in position to win next year. They have to, if Earl Grant is going to survive, he's got to figure out how he's going to turn things around. There's no other option that is better than what he has on his roster right now to lead that rebound, and that is Donald Hand, who earlier this week was named the most improved player in the ACC. And this is the second time that this has happened for BC under Earl Grant, as Quinton Post won it a couple of years ago. So you have a player who was one of the only players in the ACC to finish, one of only 4 players to finish among the top 20 in league in both scoring with 15.8 points per game and rebounding 6.1 points per game. With Donald Hand, you saw when he's good, you had that big comeback win against FSU. He had that period, I think it was January, where he was just absolutely electric. Like, he was averaging over 26 points per game. He looked like the game-changing guard that you needed. Like, this was the 4-star that you have been hoping for. So, obviously, the season did not end the way you wanted. And for a player like Donald Hand, he is going to be a gem for any school that wants to increase their profile in the portal. You got to believe the way that tampering is happening right now. I would put good money that there's already been schools that have been like, hey, if you enter the transfer portal, this is going to happen, because that is what happens in the world of college sports right now. I can't tell you if it's definitely happened, but you've seen all the stories. The transfer portal and the way the agents and all these other people are working it, it's sleazy, it's gross. And so they're trying to get players into the portal. They did it with Zay Flowers. They did it with Donovan Ezeraku, Ozzy Trapillo. You name it, there's been players all over the place that have been tried to entice. And when you have a player the caliber of Donald Hand that you could make your star on your team, there's schools across the country that are going to want him bad. So this is going to happen. It's going to happen that people are going to ask. Now, the biggest question is, and this is the one that I'm here to talk about, do I think that if he's asked to go into the portal, if he would stay with BC or go somewhere else? Now, this is the $1 million question, because if Donald Hand leaves, you are already 30 yards behind where you need to be for BC basketball for next year. I have no idea how you replace that. You cannot go and get another Deion Brown and expect him to be the next Donald Hand. He's almost irreplaceable. Like, this is a guy that I really have a hard time believing you have anybody out there in the portal or on your roster coming in either as true freshman or younger that can develop to that level. It's just that hard. So you got to get him. So this is where the big question remains. Does BC have the money? the NIL money, the revenue sharing money, and we don't know what that plan looks like yet because no one's talked about it. Do they have that to go and keep Donald Hand here? I almost say that they have to. You know, you have, if your goal is ever to excel, and you're already bringing back Earl Grant because maybe you do believe, and I don't know what the deal is, why he's back, but maybe you believe that he's the right coach. You have to get your guys. This has been the motto for BC sports in the portal. This is what they've always preached, that they're not going to go and give giant bags of money to entice guys here, but when they're here, they're going to try to keep them happy. In football, they've been excellent at that. For basketball, last year was a little rough. So I'm a little concerned about the potential here because there are plenty of schools that have deeper pockets than Boston College. There's plenty of schools that will easily up what BC is going to pay. So you have to make it enticing. You have to be able to pay them. And I'm going to be naive here. I'm going to be naive. I'm going to say here that the reason that they're keeping Earl Grant is because they're going to spend more. They have to. That's the only thing that makes sense to me is if they're going to keep him here, they're going to have to support him more. For him, this is not me knocking Grant here. I'm not. I'm just saying you need to support him more if you're going to keep him here. So maybe that money that you may have spent on the buyout, they figure out a way to get that to the players and keep Donald Hand here. That is where I'm at right now. Because I don't want to think about what this team is going to look like next year if Donald Hand is not playing. I mean, it feels like it's already it would be a lost season if that's the case. And I'll talk about this in another episode. I love their recruiting class they got coming in. Caleb Steger, borderline 4-star guard, really good player. Was an honorary McDonald All-Star. Same thing with Akbar Wahid, who's I think his dad was on the team or a coach at one point. He's a 4-star. And Jack Bailey, who is going to be your a 4, is very good. So you got all this talent coming in with the freshmen. So you never know. You got Fred Payne, hopefully coming back. You got a few, pieces, but you got to get Donald Hand back. So spend there. Rework whatever NIL deals you have. Honestly, if you're looking at your roster and you have to figure out how you're going to spend to get Donald Hand, look at some of those other NIL deals, and they all have it. So you know that they do. Look at a guy, some of the guys that you have on your roster that aren't performing to the level you want. And I'm not going to give names. Restructure them. And if that means they enter the portal, so be it. You have to, you need to get Donald Hand back. I feel like a broken record here because I'm terrified of what this team is going to look like next year if he leaves. And maybe I'm being naive. Maybe there's just going to be a team out there. Who knows what team that's going to be that's going to say, I want him. I'm going to pay for him. A team like UVA, for instance. Like UVA, his dad played there. He's from the area. That would be terrifying, So we're going to have to wait and see. And, if you're a big basketball fan, maybe it's time to make a donation to Friends of the Heights. And in the memo note, right, please deposit in Donald Hand's bank account because that's where we need to go. And McGovern Auto, make sure he has 2 cars because this needs to happen. I feel like the team could improve next year, and it doesn't need to have there's other things we'll talk about in a second, but it isn't improving if he leaves. So cross your fingers, say your prayers, and let's get Donald Hand back to Boston College. Now, in a moment, I'm going to discuss the other players. Are there risks here? And what players does BC have to keep in order for next year to be okay with Donald Hand here? I have some thoughts. We'll get into that in just a moment. We're all about the stats because numbers don't lie. And when it comes to the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X, the numbers are at an MVP level. With the ability to tow up to 8,500 pounds, it can quite literally carry the whole team. Plus the gear, wherever you need to go. It's powered by a twin-turbo V6 engine, delivering the strength and performance to handle backwoods, highways, and everything in between. And with room for up to 8 people, the Armada Pro 4X is built for big crews, big adventures, and even bigger memories. Whether you're exploring off-road trails or rolling up to the arena, the Armada Pro 4X brings power, versatility, and styles wherever you go. Take your adventures to new heights in the all-new Nissan Armada Pro 4X. Learn more at nissanusa.com. March Madness is here, and FanDuel is giving you the chance to get in the action like never before. Right now, new customers can win $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks you can use on everything from buzzer beaters to Cinderella stories and even who cuts down the net. I am so excited. I've told you before, I'm a big Bulldog fan. I love that Bulldog Griff from Drake. And Drake is playing very well. Hopefully, they don't lose their coach to Iowa this offseason right away. But I have them as my Cinderella story. I could see them winning a couple games, and I bet they're going to be underdogs. So I'm going to get on to FanDuel, make sure that happens. So visit FanDuel.com and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. I want to shout out all my Eagles nesters on our subtext program. If you have considered this, I have been giving updates throughout camp. I'm going to give you another one on Friday evening, so hopefully you are on it. You can sign up and just check it out. I have a promo code for you. It's Bill O'Brien Monster. You get a free month just to check it out. You get text to me. You get free access to me. You can text me anytime you want to say, "Hey AJ, what's your favorite college football team that's not Boston College?" I'll answer anything. So come over to the Eagles Nest. It's in the description below. Now, we're looking at this roster. What other players should Earl Grant prioritize? And this is not to bash. I'm not going to bash guys that I think are not, ones that they really need. I'm going to go with the positives here. Who are the names that I really think BC should make sure return next year? And the other ones, if they leave, maybe a reshuffle of the deck wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. So there's one player, and there's Donald Hand, and everyone else is going to be down here. But right at the top of that, there's this guy. And he was the frustration for me all season long because he consistently came off the bench. And maybe it was a knee thing. Maybe it was just they wanted to manage his minutes. They did that with Donald Hand the year before, so I get that. It was just I wished he played more because I think he would have been awesome. Fred Payne. Fred Payne has to be number 2. Obviously, the top of your list is Hand. Fred Payne is almost like a non-negotiable too. This is a guy that he exploded this past season, and there were games where he looked at, every bit the starting guard to go along with Hand. Like, I don't want to say that if he came back next year that this would be like Jerome Robinson and Kai Bowman, but it feels kind of that way. He had what was his average? I'm pulling up his numbers. He only averaged 6.9 points per game, but that was coming off the bench. I think if he started next year, you put Hand out there, you put Payne, you've got a really good guard combo. And hopefully he'll be ready to do that next year. So for me, I want to see Fred Payne back. And I get the sense, and one of his family members texts all the time about how how much he likes Earl Grant, that I don't think this is a guy that will leave. I think BC will keep him happy here, and just give him that opportunity to strive here. That's one. Additionally, the other one I think that BC desperately needs to make sure it doesn't leave is Jaden Hastings. Now, Jaden Hastings only averaged 4 points per game, but he had 3.1 rebounds, and we saw what he did at the end of the season when Chad Venning got hurt, and it was his role to kind of come in here. He's athletic, man. This guy he's incredible. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface of what this kid can do. When he came out of high school, he was all defense. Like, this was just a big dude who could jump out of a gym. His offense was kind of limited, but say what you will about Earl Grant. What has been one thing that he has been really good at since he's been here is developing big guys, whether it's Devin McLaughlin, Quinton Post. I go back to James Karnick, even Chad Venning, like all these guys, their bigs have always been very solid here. So I can just see with Hastings, this was his first year of really playing because he was redshirted last year. This was his first chance to play, and we saw just that glimmer. You got to hope that next year he's going to be put into that position where he's going to need to play more. And I will talk about what other needs they have next year. But this is a guy, I think, with the proper development. I think Jim Molinari is one of the big guys in terms of the bigs that they've developed really nicely. I think they're continually. That's the one thing BC has been doing is developing their bigs. And I think Jaden Hastings is right there. Like he could be somebody next year. Like I'm thinking, a guy that could score like 13, 14 points a game and have 8 rebounds and a block or whatever. Like he'll be exciting. He's going to be a name that you want to watch for and one that you can't lose in the transfer portal. You did a great job getting him from IMG Academy in Florida. He was a 4-star. You've developed, you've worked on him. He's getting there. You need to make sure he does not leave. So those are my two that have to stay. Now, guys that like would be nice, but if they leave, that's okay. Guys like Luka Taves and Elijah Strong are on my list for that. Like they're not like players that I feel are must-haves, but Taves started to see things better near the end of the year. He was a true freshman thrown out there that really needed to figure things out on his own. Would I like to see him have one more year? Sure. Elijah Strong, defensively, he had some moments where it was really rough. Offensively, he's kind of a big guy that can shoot the three, and he shot 36% from 3-point range, averaged about 10 points per game. You could probably find other Elijah Strong. So I wouldn't like if money's an issue here, like I'm sure BC only has a certain amount. And if someone's going to overpay for him, you might be like, okay, well, that's okay. But I would like, he's a heart and soul kind of guy. Maybe he would be okay to back. I look elsewhere other than that, like Nick Petronio, we didn't get to see play this year. Chaz Kelly, I thought he struggled. Josh Beadle, I thought he struggled. Like those two guys, it could happen. It's Kanye Chachanda, same kind of thing. Like, not sure. So they're not on my list of like guys you have to keep. We'll have to see how I think it's important to think like, do the coaches think they're going to develop? If they think they're going to develop, then maybe that changes how you rationalize things. And B, this is like, it's like free agency with a salary cap. Like, how much are they going to cost you to keep? How much was someone else going to pay them? Do you want to match that? That's the crazy thing with NIL. Like the way that college changed in terms of just viewing an off season is crazy. It's like, it's a completely different world now. You're viewing it almost as you are viewing as general manager. You get Spencer Dickow for football. He's a general manager. You didn't have this before, but that's how you have to manage things. So that's how that goes. And additionally, you're bringing in those 3 freshmen and not sure what they're going to bring in year one. They're freshmen. Earl Grant has in the past, especially with like their bigs, have always redshirted them. Whether it was Armani Mighty or Jaden Hastings, Connie Chanda kind of was a little bit of he's not redshirt, but he didn't play all that much. So will Jack Bailey actually play this year? I don't know. I won't be able to tell you until he gets on campus, and he's not yet. And then the guards, sometimes they do play the guards. Sometimes these guards get in and play right away. And Wahid, Akbar Wahid, he's a wing, and right now your wing position is one of your weak points. Like you need a good wing. Will he be ready as a true freshman? Again, he's your highest rated recruit. I hope so. I hope like day one, you'd hope that, maybe he starts in as a sub, but like by the end of that season, he's cooking because you need that kind of wing. Now, in our final segment, we're going to wrap things up with a whole basketball episode. I thought this would be fun on a Friday. We want to talk about what needs does BC have in the transfer portal. We have no idea what their scholarship availability is going to look like. We didn't last year, and we saw what happened there. We'll talk about what could happen and what they need to do in just a moment. Ever check your bank account and wonder, where did all my money go? Between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it's easy to lose track. That's where Monarch Money comes in. Your personal CFO gives you full visibility and control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place, so you just stop managing your money and start building wealth. When I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on eating out. Like, it was crazy. I needed to calm down with that. Now I budget smarter and save more, and that was all because of Monarch Money, man. So take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That is a deal. You're saving money right there. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Wrapping things up here at Locked On Boston College, a busy week. Make sure if you've not already listened to all our previous episodes, they're right there in the archives, whether you're on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Go over there and listen. We got some great stuff this week. And when you're done with this episode and you've listened to every episode this week, which I'm demanding that you do, check out Locked On Celtics with John Corrales. If you're a Bostonian like myself, this is a must listen to. He has got the Celtics on lock. So check out Locked On Celtics on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. Now, the portal. This is going to open on March 24th in the midst of March Madness, which is how stupid college sports is right now. Like, your biggest moment of the year, other than probably the bowl season, is March Madness. And you throw this monkey wrench at all these poor teams. Now, for Boston College, it doesn't matter because we never make it there. So, but that's not the point. I'm saying for these other programs that are trying to run something, just like bowl season, you get half your team that could be entering the portal. They're already doing this behind the scenes. They're half focused on some of these games. It's a mess. But for BC, it's a chance to try to change things. Now, if you would ask me right now, I don't believe BC is going to have any spots for the transfer portal if nothing changes right now. They're losing Chad Venning and they're losing Fred McFarland. Roger McFarland. Why do I call him Fred McFarland? I don't know who Fred McFarland is. Roger McFarland, excuse me. Sorry. They're losing those two guys to graduation. They're bringing 3 in. That gives you all your slots are filled. So right now, BC, I don't believe, has any slots for the transfer portal. Now, I'm not naive to say that this roster right now is going to be the roster that we talk about in June. I believe that there's going to be some roster movement. I would say my guess would be anywhere from 2 to 3. I'm guessing 2 to 3 guys are going to go. That gives you 2 to 3 guys spots that you can play with in the transfer portal. Now, I would have said possibly something similar last year, and basically the whole team left. So I hope that's not the case, because then if that's Donald Hand and Fred Payne, we're going to be looking at the bottom of the ACC again next year. Let's just hope it's just a couple. And maybe it's just, perimeter guys, not perimeter on the court, but like guys that aren't major factors. What does BC need? First and foremost, they need a wing. Oh boy, do they need a wing. Because right now, that spot, that 3, is not performing the way that they need to. You need somebody. And it could be Akbar Wahid. It could be the freshman that you're bringing in. But boy, do they need somebody who can score and be consistent at that position. And so I'm hoping when they're looking in the portal that's a key, because you don't like Akbar Wahid. Maybe he comes in and he blows everything up. Like, he's so good that you're just like, yep, he started day one. More likely than not, unless you're like the blue chips, you're going to need a little time to adjust. You need somebody that can kind of transition over. So just a veteran that can give you 10 points a game, 9 points a game. That would be clutch. That would be good. And someone who, could defend. Like, you need to get your defense better, because the defense was a mess. That's going to be important as well. My number 2 spot here would have to be another big. You need another big because Jack Bailey is not going to be it. You're losing Chad Venning. You have Jaden Hastings, but you need a veteran. Like, honestly, like Chad Venning 2.0 would be great. Like, if you can find someone that's just a big that can play defense, give you, he gave 10 points a game, usually, 8 to 10 points, and get a couple blocks here and there. That's all you can ask for. I would love another big, because you again, just like with Wahid, you need somebody to go with Hastings. Hastings is a bit of a foul magnet right now. That's what young players are like. That's going to happen. But you need somebody in case that happens. Like, you need somebody behind him. And I don't know, honestly, I said the wing and then the big. Maybe the big is bigger at this point, because at least you got, like, you have Josh Beadle. You could do that if you had to. Or you could just, but you don't have another big. You don't have anyone. unless you're going to go with Jack Bailey. He's 6'10". This team last year was criminally small. You can't get smaller at the big. You have nobody out there. So I think that's the other one. And then the third one, so those are the two, have to, no matter what, I think is going to be the case. From there, it's who leaves. What are you replacing? So I can't just project who's going to leave. And that's not fair to the players. Some of them might be like, hey, AJ, I'm not going anywhere. Whoever leaves, then you need to figure that out. Do you need a guard because a guard leaves? Or do you need, another wing because you lost your, whatever that is? I think that's going to be your other key, is filling in wherever those gaps start to pop up. So we'll have to wait and see. This is going to be another crazy part of the year. The transfer portal's nuts. We'll be here to talk about it here on Locked On BC. Make sure to follow me on Twitter at AJBlack247. Follow my work at Eagle Insider. We'll have all the updates. We have on Eagle Insider, folks, maybe I don't have all the connections to some of the transfer portal stuff behind the scenes. Our national guys do, though. They fill the gaps great. They know everything out there. So come over to Eagle Insider. We'll have Basketball Network, Adam Finkelstein, Deshaun London. These guys have it all locked down. Travis Branaham. They know the recruiting. They know the transfer stuff. Check out our work over at Eagle Insider. And thank you all for listening. We'll be back on Monday, where I want to talk about Andy Quinn, the punter, on Locked On Boston College. Your team every day.